Difficulties for Western students. Cantonese has many differences to English. Here is a brief overview of some of the difficulties a student will face and also how the revision sheets try and help. Pronunciation. As with many languages, the range of sounds used is often outside that of English. In the first sets of revision sheets, I have written crude attempts at the phonetic spelling of words. This process is called romanization and doesn't seem to be as standardized in Cantonese as it is in Mandarin. Mandarin students learn pinyin spellings as a beginner. All you need to know is that each character will have a monosyllabic sound and you will need to get a Cantonese person to say them aloud in order to learn them properly. This website uses Yutping romanization, which has its own help section. You will notice that early revision sheets have two sets of romanization. This is because Yutping can be difficult to read at first, so I have written some extra guides in brackets which should help Western readers. A good example is that some books say that N should be pronounced L, so the Yutping romanization for that would be shown as nay, when the actual sound is like the English lay. Okay. Later revision sheets and projects such as the flashcards and notepads use Yutping romanization exclusively. For more information, please read this section. Tones. The Chinese language is a tonal one, both Mandarin and Cantonese. This means that each word may be pronounced in as many as 6 different ways, for example, with a low, high, falling or rising tone. Each tone will make the meaning of your word different, and many words have further different meaning depending on the context. To be honest, this is my weakest area, and I am hopeless at distinguishing between the tones. I am in the process of adding these Yutping tone numbers to all the pages on this site. For details on the numbers themselves, please see Tones and Yutping, oral and written differences. If you want to learn Cantonese, you face a major difficulty not shared by someone trying to learn Chinese, Mandarin. The Cantonese spoken language consists of a lot of words which are seldom written down outside of magazines or comic books. This means that you effectively have to learn at least 2 languages, the written form and the vernacular spoken one. For words and phrases which have notable differences, I have tried to show both. This site uses color coding and icons to differentiate between written and spoken forms. You can see examples here. Keen students would be advised to learn both forms, but if you're in a rush, you should just learn how to write the correct written forms and practice the oral forms. I should point out, though, that I have found it a helpful memory aid to learn how to write the oral characters. Additional note, what do Cantonese people do when reading aloud from a book or magazine? This question has provoked some discussion on the discussion forums, and it would seem that when literally reading aloud, it would be acceptable to speak the written forms. When explaining what is being read, the normal spoken form of the language would naturally be used. So, although Cantonese people would probably understand somebody speaking the written forms in conversation, it would be considered extremely strange. By contrast, written and spoken Mandarin are largely the same. Written language may be somewhat more formal depending on the context, the same as in English in fact, but the structure and words will be very similar. Writing Chinese characters. This section now has its own page. Simplified versus traditional characters. Finally, just to really make life difficult, Chinese effectively has 2 different character sets depending on where you learn it. The reason for this is that in the 1950s, the communist Chinese government decided to simplify many of the more complex characters, reducing the stroke count and replacing complex radicals with simpler ones. There are various views on whether or not the simplified character set aids the ease of learning and speed of writing of Chinese, but these are beyond the scope of this essay. Suffice to say, it is generally accepted that it is easier to learn simplified Chinese after you learn traditional Chinese as opposed to the other way around. This website was written in traditional Chinese, as that is what Cantonese people use. If you want to view the pages in a simplified character set, you will probably need some Chinese viewing software such as NJ-Star. In NJ-Star, you just left-click the icon in the systems tray and choose Chinese Big 5 Simplified. The site's character database shows simplified equivalents when one exists. It is also possible to see all the characters which have simplified forms on this page. On a personal note, I prefer to look of the traditional characters and am not convinced I would learn any faster if I use simplified characters. This is a work in progress, so bye bye.